Hello, everybody. Michael Swaim. Welcome back to Simpsons Taught Me Everything, week 4 of 4 of our June slate super deep dive into Marge versus the Monorail, classic Simpsons episode about Lyle Lanley blowing into town with his schemes and scams and chicanery.
Where have I heard that name before?
But today, I want to shift focus and talk about mass hysteria, cases of mass hysteria, and no, it's not a case of mass hysteria that, if you were paying attention, you thought my guest would be Robert Evans of Behind the Bastards this week. And that's not some kind of meta bit, but I do have a different Robert here. It's a straight Robert swap. Consider it a shell game, and you've been had, my friends, by me swapping in probably a superior guest, a better Robert, if you will. And let me lift that cloche and reveal him now, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Brockway.
Not the first time that's happened. As your listeners know, all Roberts are interchangeable by their very nature.
You can't do this! I saved the children's lives! I'm a hero!
But yeah, I'm constantly getting like, oh, that guy's like doing some amazing stuff politically, and I have to be like, no, it's you're thinking of the other.
I mean, we're both, of course, from Cracked, where we had Katie and Katie, and that never.
I always have to tell people,
yeah.
You're thinking of the guy making a difference in the world. That's not this guy.
Right.
That's not this guy.
Right. No, but a little about this guy. Robert is the co-founder and head sausagier of, I'm not sure, whatever unorthodox title you've given yourself, over at 1-900hotdog.com, also at patreon.com/1900hotdog, where, hey, you might notice some resemblance to the great work that Cracked once did.
Wow.
There was like a day where you'd log on and you'd like go to your website and you'd like see words and they'd make you laugh.
Yeah, it's hard to explain
back to a
now
simpler
to like
time.
now that we're all audio and video all the time.
Exactly.
But people used to like reading long form written comedy for whatever reason, and for some reason that kind of all went away all of a sudden. Who knows why that happened? Who knows? But if you like that, we're still doing it.
As the man who led Crack's pivot to video, I'll explain, Robert. No. Let's stay the course and pursue this format, discussing mass hysteria, which I gotta say was a specially chosen topic that pairs very well with Robert Evans. He has a lot of knowledge in that regard and interest, and I knew that. And I didn't have time to change anything. So I'm gonna dive into the script now. It's a straight Robert swap.
I'm
Brockway
hysterical, and I got mass.
Should know that, yes, you have mass, but in every other way, this was tailored for Robert Evans. So prepare for that. Robert, as someone who predicts the future of America based on unsettling trends in shows like It Could Happen Here, available from Cool Zone Media now, wherever you get podcasts, how impressed or unimpressed are you by all the mimetic Simpsons predictions? You know about this? You heard about this? Robert Evans of Behind the Bastards?
They truly do. I mean, it is true, though. Like, they have, some say by virtue of simply consistently plugging along for so many years, but, like, no show has been as prophetic as The Simpsons. Simpsons has just called so many things that should never have happened and did.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to drive home is, not comparing quality or impact level at all, but like I did, or if you considered Cracked a TV show, like I went to a place every day for 10 years, which is a decent chunk of time, and we tried to predict pop culture stuff. And I remember us very occasionally predicting something, but not at all at that rate. And I don't recall, like, The Onion is constantly saying stuff that could happen, and we go like, this is like an Onion article. Yet I looked into it. There is not like a long lineage of literally the thing the Onion said then came to pass. It seems very specific to The Simpsons, and it is weird.
It is, and they've always, like, sometimes you'll come across an episode that will have multiple details of something that will come to pass, and you're just like, how did they know about that?
Well, I wanted to wrap out with mass hysteria because, as I've asserted before, but will refresh you on, I feel that The Music Man ends with just straight up nonsense, which is this guy has set up this whole scam and scammed the town and defrauded everyone and, like, you know, stifled or squandered their child's potential learning experience or what have you. And he doesn't have instruments. He's got nothing, but he apologizes and says, I've repented of my ways and I've fallen in love with a local, and now I want to be like a good guy. And the town forgives him so hard that through movie magic, they just like cross-cut, and you see that in everyone's mind, it is true. Like, the kids suddenly do play trombone. And even though they're just banging on trash can lids, the parents don't care. In their eyes, it is a real band. And I'm like, but it's not, though. Like, what actually happened at the end of that if it was a sequence in reality? So in honor of that, I wanted to talk mass hysterias. And I think, in a way, the Simpsons Predicts, also interesting tidbit I learned last night, apparently some of these Simpsons Predicts sites that curate things Simpsons have predicted are starting to fake or generative AI predictions that the Simpsons didn't make, and that content will still hit because no one cares, because no one watches the Simpsons anymore. People will just be like, I'm sure they did.
That doesn't sound like something I'd say.
I'm sure they did. So there's that going on too. So I feel like mass hysteria is a not unrelevant topic right now.
Yeah, I mean,
in many strata of our lives.
We all got to get on board with it for sure. Like, Google is going to stop doing searches entirely and just do like
right.
AI
Soon
robot results. You're gonna
the computer's going to force you into a mass hysteria of some kind, despite your best efforts, until we somehow figure out how to screen that. So till we do, hey, let's play games and have fun with it. Robert, I always forget to do this, and I should before we dive into the meat of it. General familiarity with The Simpsons, I assume extreme.
Yes,
but I'm
extreme,
just
especially these seasons, especially like 2 to generously 10, probably more 8, but still 10.
Yes, we will proceed into the tweens and 20s and 30s, but Robert won't have to, and is probably grateful for that. So,
based on this format, that's going to be 30 years from now.
I like to ask people who are very familiar with The Simpsons, or more, the 3 big radishes.
Now, where was I? 2, 3 radishes. 3 big radishes.
Radish number 1. Who's your favorite character who's not a Simpsons family member, and why? What do you like so much about him?
Honestly, it's not just because you've seeded it in my mind with 3 big radishes, but it's Mo. It's for sure Mo. Like, the despair of Mo is like something that is always truly connected with me, and like, looks like it's suicide for me. Just like all millennial humor became Mo, you know, and Gen Z to some extent has passed on to that too. But like, well before that happened, Mo was out there representing just general despair, and I've always respected him for it.
We gotta kick one person out. Someone who's alone, already bitter, someone whose feelings have been trampled on so many times, one more won't make any... Oh, Mo!
Radish number 2 is in a playlist of all the Simpsons that you've ever seen or at least are familiar with. If, as you watched it ad nauseum over and over 1,000 times and started getting bored inevitably of it, what's an episode you'd never skip where you're like, oh, wow, we'll watch that one?
Itchy and Scratchy Land.
Itchy and Scratchy. Yeah. Gotcha.
That's probably one of my favorite episodes, but it's also this is gonna drag us off track. I can skip what I was about to say there. All right, well, one of my favorite Simpsons joke of all time, I'll just commit.
Cut it later. With a dry, cool wit like that, you have to take us through the whole thing.
That's one of them, but like, people remember it. People remember that. People remember those jokes. My favorite, it's so slept on, which is when they're first coming into Itchy and Scratchy Land, and the pilot goes,
Final destination, Itchy and Scratchy Land, the amusement park of the future where nothing can possibly go wrong. Possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong.
That's something that really shaped...
Screenwriter's joke. Yeah.
Shaped my comedy. It was like thinking about... I had to stop, because I laughed my ass off when that happened, then I had to stop and be like, okay, why was that so funny? Because on the surface, it shouldn't be that funny. He just said something wrong, was like, oh, that's the first thing that's ever gone wrong. But like as you said, there are layers where like, okay, the layer 1 is he knows that. He's implied that everybody knows everything that has ever happened, and that's like the first minor mistake. And the second is just his reaction, where he's like, he knows he knows the structure of the episode broke the seal.
Brewing.
Like, he broke the seal on things going wrong, and he's just like, he doesn't sell it like whatever. He's like haunted. He's haunted by
Okay.
it. Like I fucked
Well,
up. I
here
fucked
we
up.
enter a new. Now this is unprecedented territory. Yeah,
It's
it's,
just
the
like-
vibe. That means like and so many aspects. The director in the booth had to get the actor to understand that that's the mood of the exact nuanced bit we're trying to do.
Like the density and complexity of what people consider a throwaway line, and like that taught me to look for like alternate punchlines that aren't punchlines. Like and that in Arrested Development is like there's so many punchlines in Simpsons and Arrested Development where it's just a haunted silence. Like there's no actual punchline.
Yeah,
there's no
right,
laugh
right.
track. It's just somebody going like.
And
God.
masterful for a comedian, comedy writer, creator, because it blends with performers sometimes, to know how long of a like this joke has this many layers, so in the edit they need this long to go, oh, because he means it connects to that.
Yeah.
Oh, that implies that. Then you can cut out. Like that really is an argument that needs to be had in the editing room, and I love comedy. It's so technical.
It is. That's like a super technical joke that people don't realize. I'm like, I love how over the top.
The one I always remremember is that's why your robot didn't work.
That's why your robot
in
didn't
there.
work. I
Still-
also remember
still
from Itchy
stuff
and
in there.
Scratchy Land the guy and you must be so happy that it's New Year's all the time.
It must be wonderful to ring in the new year over and over and over.
Please kill me.
Kill me.
Kill me. Oh, ma'am, we'd never condone violence, ma'am. I like that random guy. All right, last radish of 3. Line delivery or sound bite or sequence that, like, on your deathbed will roll in your head.
Oh, it's 100%. I just covered it.
Possibly go wrong.
That's probably the one that's going to
Great.
to land in there the most. But
Man, you're so lucky that they align, that it's a joke you love. Because I have, like, Duff Man Says a Lot of Things, which isn't my favorite joke, but it's stuck in my head in that way.
yeah,
you know?
that's another great one. Even just from like the Monorail episode, I will always have somebody want to switch seats.
Does anyone want to switch seats?
Now we're going to talk about everything. See, that's the show. It's The Simpsons taught me everything. That's my interest, is everything. So I think the crux of The Music Man that probably inspired Conan to pitch The Simpsons ep was, of course, the central idea of a con artist using song and the excitement of, hey, we're all going to sing about it, to sell a town full of idiots, something they absolutely don't need, on just pure groupthink. Interestingly, in that episode, the monorail is shitty and broken, and he cut corners, much like when Robert Terwilliger builds the hydroelectric dam. Oh, wait, that was his brother. But we blame him, so I
Another
was right.
interchangeable Robert.
Meanwhile, in The Music Man, the marching band doesn't even exist. And they have to fill that gap with movie magic, musical magic, whatever you call it. The cracked writer in me insists on calling it an outbreak of mass hysteria. As I mentioned, in this case, they resolve the situation by getting the whole town to head out into the streets and agree that the kids are doing a great marching band job and clap and scream while they stumble down Main Street in borrowed rags, blowing through rusty tin cans and getting all nice and tetanusy just in time to die in World War I. Robert, thoughts on the Balkan Black Hand as such a scholar of rebellion and geopolitics?
You know what? I'm gonna take a bold stance. I love them. My favorite band.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, my favorite black metal band.
That Archduke had it coming, man. I don't know what his policies were, but he had to go. Consequences be damned. Okay, anyway. We already kind of went into what an egregious example that ending is of the central white dude being immune to all consequence. So today I'm setting that lens of it aside, and I want to go into literally what it scans to me as just mass goddamn hysteria. So these people have snapped. They are suffering a psychotic break because they've been scammed too hard, and they're too Iowa stubborn to accept that. This is not a town anymore. It's a cult. Other people will visit and they'll go, did you see our children's marching band? And you'll have to go, yeah, great. Or they'll murder and eat you. This is like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery.
Chilling tale of conformity gone mad.
Oh.
Historical cases of mass hysteria are usually blamed on a combination of untreated syphilis symptoms, psychoactive fungi they didn't know that they were eating in their bread, and overactive mirror neurons, i.e., memes. Like the idea just catches on and people go along with it. You know the old expression, monkey see, sea do, monkey do sweet sea do jumps on those floating ramps that have pontoons at the bottom. The point is, primates are highly suggestible types.
Yes, I am the highly suggestible type.
Which is good when you want to generate collective cathexis around something like Hammurabi's 282 rules for conducting commerce. From money to America to meritocracy, so much of what we believe in is fake, and on some level, we all know but ignore that to keep society from crumbling. But when that natural herd mentality comes back to bite us on the ass, we call it mass hysteria or mass psychogenic illness. Of course, these days, we can't blame syphilitic madness. I mean, I can, but most people can't blame syphilitic madness and ergot fungus spread. But what we do have is social media installed on our phones, which is sort of the technological equivalent of both those things mashed together. So today we're talking about mass psychogenic illness, MPI, and for our one and only game, I heard you on that, everyone. Too many games. We're just going to do one, other than the Simpsons trivia game at the end.
Okay.
I want to feel out Robert's existing knowledge of the subject with a round of what I am calling Mirror Morons. All right, this is a game of Mirror Morons. I'm going to say something that a person who's swept up in a case of mass hysteria, a specific chronicled real case of mass hysteria from history. I go a little deeper than Wikipedia, but not that far. So if you wanted to pull up the Wikipedia list of mass hysterias, that would be a way to cheat at this game.
That's cheating. I would never.
But I will speak as someone who swept up in a documented historical case of MPI, and that will be your clue. To get the point, Robert, you have to mirror me by like yes-anding my line with a line that shows that you're a character that I'm spreading it to. So you agree and accept, and your response makes it clear that the mass hysteria that I'm laying down is what you're picking up. Does that make sense?
Maybe. Let's try it.
Great. Okay. So for bonus points, be on the lookout for Simpsons characters' catchphrases woven into the lines, and you can point those out for like bonus points along the ride. Okay. All right. Number one, easy. Should be easy. J'accuse. Remember, these are written for Robert Evans, and I didn't have time to rewrite. J'accuse. I saw Goodman Evans running barefoot in the woods at night with a machete and an old hunting rifle singing VNV Nation songs. He is a bane in the eye of our god, the Picard, and must be burned at the stake until he is deemed fit to re-enter society. Do you agree?
Of course I agree. All Roberts, are, as we've discussed, are interchangeable, and all are in league with the devil and should be tried and burned as witches.
Yeah, that, of course, is a reference to the Salem Witch Trials.
I didn't get the Simpsons quote.
Great. Okay, I paused there just in case you did. It was from the episode. I mean, I started with, everything very aligned on track so you understand the game. So that's from the Witch Trials episode.
Okay.
I believe it's Mayor Quimby who said,
I sentence you hags to be burned at the stake until you are deemed fit to re-enter society.
Fire it up, boys.
Less a catchphrase, more of a single joke he said once, but most of them are catchphrases. Continuing on. Girl, did you see what Nima drove to school in today and was therefore made the subject of fun? I could not stop laughing.
Oh, that was it? That was all the clue?
That was the clue. We've jumped from difficulty level 1 to like 8 out of 10 immediately is my clue within a clue.
I know, really. Can you believe she thinks cars exist?
Good guess.
The mass hysteria where we all thought cars existed?
We don't actually travel around. That's something we just fake. This is in reference to the Tanganyika laughter epidemic, which was a case in 1962 in what is now Tanzania, that spread among schoolgirls and then other children in their villages after they went home from school, where they'd just laugh and couldn't stop laughing, but also complained of like, it's not like, oh, we're all laughing and it's great. It's the kill me. Like they complained of uncontrollable laughter, contagious laughter, but only among the children, like rashes. So then you'll also find there's a layer of symptoms that your brain can make your body do, that all mass hysterias therefore have in common, right? They complain of dizziness, headache, nausea, things that can just happen to you sort of
They were doing
anytime.
whippets.
Right, exactly. Restlessness, fainting, trouble breathing. And it's been, I mean, a lot of these, everything's only a theory, I guess.
Theory. In theory, communism works.
These to an even greater degree, but linguist Christian Hempelman theorized that the episode was just group stress-induced. Tanganyika had just won its independence, and the school system was completely changing format. And, you know, just as a podcast host, I know how stressful that can be. So imagine if your whole country was undergoing some kind of regime change. That would be stressful.
Huh.
I guess.
And I guess you'd respond to that with laughter?
Did you happen to catch any Simpsons quotes in there?
No, I didn't. I'm terrible at
really?
this so far. It was so short. I was just waiting. I was like waiting for a quote.
I'll give it to you again. I think that's that's not cheating.
Give it to me again.
Girl, did you see what Nima drove to school in today? I don't know how you didn't get. Nima is a traditional Tanganyikan name. That's why I put that. I thought that would be the giveaway. Girl, did you see what Nima drove to school in today and was therefore made the subject of fun?
Oh, therefore made the subject of fun. Yeah.
Everyone needs to drive a vehicle, even the very tall. This was the largest auto that I could afford. Should I, therefore, be made the subject of fun?
I guess so.
You got yeah, very tall man. Officially named Ian by the writers. Ian the Very Tall Man.
Oh, I didn't know that.
22 short films about Springfield. Moving on. I really like them. Like, I really, really like them. It's almost a kind of listomania with me. P.S. Forgive the lateness of my reply.
I'm also pregnant with Liszt's baby. Even though I've only seen him play, such is the power of his music.
Good guess. No, I was trying to use Listomania as an analog to clue you into Beatles mania.
Ah, damn it.
Which is considered a chronicled case of MPI.
I don't care what anybody thinks. I love the Beatles for them, and I'll always love them. Even when I'm 105 and an old grandmother, I'll love them. And Paul McCartney, if you are listening. Adrienne from Brooklyn loves you with all her heart.
If you're somehow a young summer child and don't know who the Beatles were, I'm not going to explain it, but I will say that even beyond Tay-Tay, or like there was a time where monoculture was such that people didn't really have their own little quadrant where they'd go do whatever they were interested in. Everyone did the same 4 things. And at one time, the Beatles was the band you liked. And women, groups of women would scream so loudly, so continuously, that they stopped touring because they could not hear themselves play and no one could hear the music, and it became a pointless endeavor.
Yeah. Those are the Beatles, those are. And this is Beatleland, formerly known as Britain, where an epidemic called Beatlemania has seized the teenage population, especially female. Wherever the Beatles go, they are pursued by hordes of screaming, swinging juveniles. They and their press agents have to think up all sorts of ways to evade their adoring fans.
There's something about getting a bunch of humans together and screaming and shaking around. We love it. We love it. So that, of course, can be a form of mass hysteria, is we gather around and shake around and scream because it's just, for whatever reason, that the music's good. God is real. Anything we agree upon that allows us to do that. So that'll work. Forgive the lateness of my reply was a line that Ringo Starr delivers in his very brief Simpsons guest spot in the episode Brush with Greatness, where Marge paints Mr. Burns in the nude.
I would have got
the
that
lateness
one.
Of my
It's incredible
reply.
You didn't give me a chance.
P.S. Forgive the lateness of my reply.
Listen up, people. I don't care if you're meowing. I don't care if you just got bitten. Can we please not scream out things in the church?
Just based on a guess, I don't recognize it, but can we please not scream out things in the church?
That is an earworm stuck with me forever. Okay. Yes, it is from Homer Loves Flanders. People start doing the thing the Simpsons characters always do, which is rabble, rabble. Every character is giving their 2 cents, but then it pulls out, or, it punches wide to reveal that they're in the church, and Reverend Lovejoy goes,
"Could we please not yell out things in the church?"
Do you have a guess?
And focus on our group kitty cat play?
I'll take it.
Okay.
How about a half a real point? So you got 1.5 real points and 1 technical point.
Let's
or
be
half
real.
a
Is that the
technical
best
point.
anyone's ever done?
That it's on this game that I made up just for this episode? Yes, absolutely,
Fantastic.
dude.
I'll take it.
And you haven't even reached the end yet, but that was in reference to the Würzburg screaming nun outbreak. Or the 1784 biting nun outbreak in France. I would have accepted either. I wanted you to intuit that you were a nun. But I don't know how you... yeah.
I got it.
It's watching me learn how games work is part of the joy of the show. But it's also an excuse for me to explain to you that there have been many outbreaks of, and this will build towards, I think, a thesis you might see coming, in nunneries, of groups of nuns, especially groups who aren't allowed to talk or have taken very restrictive vows, suddenly all doing something weird. There was a highly publicized case where one just flipped out and bit another one, and soon it was a problem, and they had to tell all the convents in the region, ladies, please stop biting each other. And the case of mass hysteria, which of course some people claimed was demons, some people, everything came up that normally comes up, finally went away when they issued a decree saying that they would beat and whip any women caught biting each other, and then it stopped. Similarly,
the decree would be the problem in that case. Like, if you're in an isolated convent, you're not really communicating with the other one. So if you get a missive in that's like, all the other nuns are biting each other, you'd be like, all right, that's something to do.
You're already smarter than everyone in history times. Because, spoiler, like, now believed one of the main ways this spreads is it's just like the way a meme spreads, or that fucking game when we were in high school and college where you would put a Smirnoff Ice or, icing someone or whatever. Any bullshit thing that kids do, or anyone who's bored out of their mind because their lot in life is just this slot, like nuns in medieval times, are like, that chick bit some chick. Something to do.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that.
I wonder if that was fun. I mean, there's one way.
Exactly, dude. So there are many cases of it breaking out in nunneries. One was they all meowed and acted like cats. Like, I'm not a person now, I'm a cat. And it always breaks down when the oppressive powers that be are like, oh, you're a cat? How about this? I think you're infested by demons. We're going to start beating the hell out of anyone who meows. And then they're all like, never mind, this isn't fun anymore.
You know what we eat? Cats.
Yeah. I call the big nun Bitey. Also just wanted a good excuse for me to mention, which I love to mention, Kancho, which is the Japanese practice. Are you aware of this, Robert? The Japanese practice of doing your fingers like a little gun and shoving them up your teacher's butthole. Totally unacceptable in our culture. Totally just a thing kids do there, and is accepted.
Oh,
like, kids do that.
That went all the way up my butthole. You naughty scamp.
Yeah. It has spread to Korea, where it's called Tongchim, and China, Kianansha, I think. But I just love that it's like, oh yeah, whole hemispheres are doing the up the butthole.
You guys
game,
haven't
man.
heard about this? Have you heard about this? This butthole poking?
Start doing it.
You heard
It's
about
good.
this?
Get on the metric system and do the butthole game with your kids. All right, next clue. Barf me out. I heard those choose your own adventure books are like an open invitation for Satan to give you NC analingus. It's so untubular. You wiggle and wiggle, but there's no escape. Death stalks you at every turn. Ah, there it is. Death. Won't somebody please think of the children?
Death stalks you
All
at
right,
every
break
turn.
it down.
There is death.
I'll repeat it if you need. Break it down.
I will make you repeat it, but it's death stalks you at every turn.
Death stalks you at every turn.
Grandpa?
Well, it does. Ah! There it is. Death.
It's only Maggie.
Yes. Abe Simpson. Yes. Death stalks you at every turn. There it is. It's death. Largely unrelated to the heart of the clue. I'll tell you that.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
I feel like the false start in there is just the satanic panic, but I'm gonna go hard with and allow us to now demonstrate that wiggle together as brothers.
Wait, so is it a mass
wiggle hysteria?
A case of people. Oh, a town where everyone wiggled.
Wiggles. Yeah.
No, you were absolutely right. I
Damn it.
overwrote it. It was a reference. That's why Barf Me Out and Tubular to the 1980s
The
satanic panic.
That was
around much of the pop culture we love so dearly, D&D, heavy metal, comic books. Right. Many listeners of this pod probably familiar with the 80s Satanic Panic, but considered a case of MPI. Especially because there were straight up books and articles and TV ran specials about, and none of it was happening.
No.
So that counts. I wanted to at least have one on American soil. All right. You got 2 more chances to redeem yourself. So far, you have 1.5 real points. And I'm going to give you half a technical point because you did name check the Satanic Panic. So 1 full technical point. This one should be simple, but I don't want to jinx it. Did you just hear a chirping sound? No? That's weird. God. It feels like my eyeball's a rock and there's a lemon behind that rock. I am not having a good time.
God, what was the cause of that? Does anyone
You don't have to solve it. You don't have to crack the case to get the
Does
point.
anyone think that embassy seal looks suspicious?
You are clearly referring to Havana Syndrome, the widely considered now probably fake belief that a bunch of ambassadors and political people working in Cuba and around Cuba hear weird sounds and then feel sick. And they're like, do these Cubans have secret sound weapons? And probably not. You're probably just
sound
nauseous
weapons are a thing.
because you're traveling and you heard some weird sound you're not used to. It's just the house settling.
But
stuff
yeah, you
like
probably
that.
just ate a burrito that your white person gut was not prepared to handle.
That's right. Yeah. Did you spot the Simpsons reference?
Give it to me one more time.
Did anybody just hear that chirping sound? No? God, suddenly it feels like my eyeball's a rock and there's a lemon behind that rock.
There's a lemon behind that rock.
I am not having a good time. Yeah, you got it. Hard to hide. Lemon of Troy. And lastly, Robert, and this is not on the record or part of the game now. This is off mic. Just you and me as buddies. Are you now or have you ever been a member of the Ben & Jerry's Flavor Fanatics program or any similarly subversive group?
Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be permitted while the committee conducts its business. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room.
Yes, and proudly.
Get 'em, fellas.
Let's get him, fellas.
Don't! Now that we've proven that we know a lot about making tons of people go crazy, which is a key skill for a woke podcast host, I want to spend just a little time batting around the idea of mass hysteria with you off script and explore its perimeter a bit. My impression is that, aside from, which is very interesting history hole to dive into that I'm not going to, where it turns out to be like, man, this whole town for like a generation and a half were on acid or shrooms equivalent most of the time. Like, no wonder they believed in fairies and shit. All their bread made you trip balls. So those are interesting little pockets of history for sure. But I'm focused, of course, through the Music Man lens on the idea of groupthink and the idea that we'll just flip out for no reason. Like, we don't have to have syphilis. We'll just go crazy because we're scared or whatever.
That spot on Gorbachev's head? Herpes, trust me. Anybody here have herpes?
Amazing thing about the witch trials I learned is that the witch trials only finally stopped when the guy who started the witch trials, like decreed we shall begin a series of trials, his wife was accused by the board.
Oh, that's
and he's
not
like,
fun
I
anymore.
think this has gotten out of hand.
Whoa, we were all
calm down.
having a good time.
Yeah. When I was burning that bitch. But no. Anyway, so my main takeaway just in researching to some, a little more than scratching the surface, but I'm no Dan Carlin. I feel like they all are like conformity, meaning just the basic herd impulse. It's you survive if you conform, plus a lever that's very identifiable. So like fear, there's all these historical ones that go under fear. We just referenced one, but also ones you might not have heard of. The Hammersmith ghost murder case was a legal case where we set the precedent that you can't kill someone just because you really think they're a vampire, for example. There was a town where people said there was a ghost with a hammer killing people, and everyone really was like, no, there really is. I've seen him. I've seen him too. So finally a guy went out one night and it is like, I'm going to save the town. Just shot the first guy he saw who happened to be a workman at night working with a hammer. And they're like, you can't just shoot people because they could be a ghost.
It could be a ghost.
Also, you were going to shoot the ghost to save us?
Yeah.
You're going to shoot the... Anyway. Or, much more recently, the Evil Clowns of 2016. I think people who are internet savvy are probably more aware, so I don't have to go deep into it. But, again, there was like 1 or 2 pranks where some guys did a creepy clown prank and put it on the gram, and other people either just spread the... like literally did copycat or didn't even do copycat, just said it happened. And suddenly the news was reporting that there are armies of scary clowns standing in cornfields all across America. If you look it up, happened in 2016, because the news got bored. And they're like, well, history's over, so there's nothing to report on. And then nothing historical of note ever happened.
I got, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I got what I didn't know was the thing at the time. That was like after I had published my big horror series, or at least like in the middle of publishing my big horror series. I got an RFP. You and I know that term. I got an RFP for a novel from a company that wanted to like do a novel, like that was basically an ad, and they wanted to capitalize on the evil. They're like, evil clowns are so hot right now. We've got to do an evil clown thing. And what our marketing team came up with was, and then they had the entire story, all of the characters. Their marketing team wrote fan fiction about evil clowns and was like, now you write it again. And you're never allowed to mention that we did this, that we wrote all of this.
Whenever Poochie's not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Poochie?
And
what is the product? So for people who don't know those initials, an RFP means they want you for marketing purposes to do blank.
Yes, they want
So
you
the
for
novel
marketing.
is like a viral
Yes.
marketing tool to market what?
They want to write the novel, and most primarily, they wanted to make a movie of it. But they wanted you to write the novel as like a pre-tie-in novelization to get the ball rolling for Heat for a movie.
I love the. So they're basically like, hey, random marketing person we hired with no, like, it's the lowest level of connection. We don't know you. You don't know us. You're some writer. Write so good that it gets us a movie deal.
And it worked. It worked. It got
the
movie is out
Stephen
right
King.
now. We won't
called
talk
It.
about it, but the movie is out right
great.
now. Only
well, that's just depressing.
Only 10 years after the evil clown mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Really struck while that iron was hot.
Before we leave the fear corner, I wanted to mention, of course, that the Music Man scam would technically fall into this one, not the Simpsons version, which is an interesting change. So in the Music Man, it's you have to do this or your kids will join gangs and do drugs instead. So it is a fear forward, whereas Lyle Landley is more hope, which is the last quadrant I want to talk about. Oh, you could be amazing if you have a monorail. But before we leave fear, I wanted to mention another one that I found was an instrument that we will show a clip of. Called the glass harmonica, which is essentially just a bunch of glass bowls of descending sizes on a lathe that you like touch with wet fingers. And it makes such a uniquely creepy sound that it was widely considered to be cursed, and that like listening to someone play the glass harmonica would befoul your mind and depress you and give you mental illness, to the point that no one, some freak online made one to be like, this is what it sounds like. But it's one of those extinct instruments because everyone was scared that it would fuck you up.
I'm picturing just like a bunch of people doing the wine glass trick with their fingers, and like
essentially
somebody going
and
like, that's cursed. I'm gonna kill myself.
My secret theory of why it's so hateful is any instrument your hands have to be constantly wet to play is just people find that unpalatable.
Yeah.
You have to keep wetting your hands in a bowl as you play it. Okay, the other one, hate, similar to fear, but whereas fear might make you avoid something for your own safety, hate is something we animals sometimes need to like move us to action, right? No, you're gonna risk your safety to go fuck these people up so you have to like get that hate up. It can sometimes be useful. Hate is often, anyway, I don't need to explain hate to you. Right, but of course this would give you the Salem Witch Trials, the Satanic Panic, the Red Scare, the current ICE crackdown. no, it's not the billionaires' fault. You're all poor and your kids can't read. It's the people who pick your food for low wages.
Imagine the horrible things that will happen to our children. Then imagine we said those things, since we couldn't think of any. As a mother, those things worry me.
Blame, let's get all them out of here and suddenly there will be more money for you. Hate. Then there's stress. That was one that hadn't occurred to me before, or like learned helplessness, which I think is so interesting that I would call the biting nuns, the meowing nuns, the kids who just start laughing, or similarly a case called the Meson trembling disease, or the Hollandwell mass swooning marching band incident, which is the one, of course, I want to focus on, which was a thing in the UK where 300 kids in a town were told, okay, do your big marching band thing for all your proud parents, just like at the end of the music band. And one of them was so overwhelmed with stress and nausea and a day of travel and heat that they just fainted. And all the other kids also fainted. And the theory is just that seemed like a good out to them on some subconscious, like they didn't want to do it, right? But EMTs were brought. They're like, "What's going on? What horrible disease is this?"
Yeah, the more kids that go down, the farther back you are in the line, the more it's like, well, I have to now. I'm not going to be the one guy. I'm not going to be like, I'm standing up against it. I got a drum, and everybody's
They're like,
we
got 2 flautists and a bassoon. Do your damage, kids. Like,
no, I'm taking a fall too.
Yeah, so just general English malaise swept over 300 students who just didn't do the marching band thing. And then the Meson trembling disease was a case where, again, a school system, I think in England, definitely Europe, implemented like a new writing system. This is how kids are all going to learn to write now. And it was really draconic and harsh and like, you have to hold your hand this way. I don't care if it hurts, And all the kids started, or the teachers started reporting we can't teach them to write anymore because they start trembling and shaking. And the government, investigated what germ warfare, disease, or tainted water. And it's so funny to be like, no, you're just scaring the kids, man. They just don't want to do it.
It's like classic dog training. If you slap him every time he goes to do this writing, he's going to be like, I'm really freaked out about doing the writing.
Yeah. So do you see any gaping holes in that, or did I sum up the whole field of mass hysteria study pretty well?
Oh, I see. Then everything is wrapped up in a neat little package. Really, I mean that. Sorry if it sounded sarcastic.
I think there's one gaping hole that you touched on.
What came up
just
for you?
touched on, and that's quitters. I think they're just quitters that don't want to do it. Like maybe I don't want to be a nun anymore. You know what paths I have? Not a lot. I can start biting.
Or boredom. Yeah. Do people just do random? Like, I'm just going to do something random now.
Yeah,
someone else goes, I'm going to do it because they did it, and you're off to the races.
When I was a kid, we were staying in this place, and we were so poor we just didn't have anything. By which I mean literally, like we had like a couch and a table, and like that was it. But of course everybody smoked, so we invented the lighter game, and the lighter game was I'm going to throw my lighter at you, and that's the end of the game. Like if you can catch it, you can swat it. If you just get hit with it, it's all fine. But that started spreading like
metal or a plastic bic.
Plastic bic.
Okay, good.
I mean, that's the best. It's
Zippo
not a great
from the war.
Yeah, Zippo from
I
the war.
I lost an eye.
It's still the bics where like everybody had little scratches, like from where like the.
Well, of course, because the nice thing is if it is light, then you feel fully justified throwing it as hard as you can, like a prick.
But like, it wasn't fun. Nobody really enjoyed it. Nobody really liked it. But you know what we did? We did the lighter game because we were fucking bored.
Yeah. And you know what else isn't fun? I'm speaking to Robert Evans now more. This would
the
make
ghost
more
of
sense
Robert
to him.
Evans, of course.
The Holocaust and genocide and like the wars that and the hate you've seen on the battlefield in the multiple times you've embedded yourself on the front lines with fighting forces. And because it's such a rare treat to have you here, I wanted to unpack that a little bit and just ask you, Robert Brockway, if you think the thing I was going to ask Robert Evans is true, which is just the interesting philosophy or metaphysics takeaway from doing this episode for me was, is everything mass hysteria? Because, like, you could easily say, well, the Holocaust is mass hysteria, or anything where you think, I know what'll fix all this. We'll slaughter a bunch of our own species and wildly destabilize society and the economy, and we'll arbitrarily decide their skin is this color, so they die. Like, that's not a good survival strategy, so I would call that mass hysteria in a way. But then is society mass hysteria? Because all the good stuff we agree to do, like that murder is wrong, is a fabric. And then is reality a mass hysteria? And all of life is just like a drug trip, like nothing is real.
Well, speaking as Robert Evans, a lot of things that I learned when I was in Afghanistan or being gassed in the protests. Yeah. Just one takeaway I've learned from all of that is that I think mass hysteria kicks ass, and everybody should do it. Everybody should do war and stuff all the time. Me, Robert Evans, because it's really fun.
Some of them are just jerks. Stop that, Mr. Simpson.
That's not an unbuyable Robert Evans take. He did invent Machedison. Okay. And then last but not least, putting you on the spot in more ways than one, like on multiple levels. Whoever I'm talking to you. Robert. Let's just call you Robert. I wanted to bring up maybe the most widely studied mass hysteria situation and just get your take and get my little take on why these ones, because they don't seem to fall into any of the categories I outlined, which are the dancing plagues of medieval times. And we'll throw up a painting here by Peter Bruegel the Younger. They were so widespread. He's not the only one either. They're a subject of medieval paintings frequently, is one of the ways we know they happen, but also they're mentioned a lot in historical writings and periodicals of the time, or town criers, whatever.
Hear ye, hear ye! Ye old town crier proclaimed crappy by all!
Historians better than myself have documented that separately over a couple hundred years, over many thousands of miles apart in various medieval towns across Europe, this thing would happen where people would start dancing, or one person would go into the town square and start dancing, and they just dance all day instead of doing their job, like refining cow shit or whatever you have to do in medieval times into nails or something. They would just dance all day, and someone else would go, that looks fun, and they'd start dancing. By the way, one of these is thought to be the origin for the myth of the rat guy who takes all your kids away, right? Pied Piper of Hamelin. And they just start dancing, and they do like a group, like a Coachella, but there's no one there. Or in some cases, they documented someone would go, you know what, you need music. And they'd show up and they would play drums for 18 hours until they're fainting and there's blisters all over there. And they were called dancing plagues. And sometimes a stranger would roll into town and find that the whole town was dancing and everyone in town had been dancing for like 9 hours. And it's like, what's going on? Yeah. So these things would happen. They happen repeatedly. They were called the dancing plagues, and to this day, no one knows. There's a bunch of theories. One of the theories is that the town is liars. Like, they were doing a pagan religious festival that was banned, and they would just say, what? We're all naked dancing? What? This is crazy. What? No one knows why we were doing that.
My dick is out. What?
Because, of course, many pagan religions were banned across at this time. Some say that it was psychotic breaks because medieval life is so much harder than we can even fathom. That it was like everyone's like fuck it,
or they just
and it was like
party.
A group fuck
they
it.
Just like to party,
right? But the point is they do it until they're passing out, or
that's how you party.
All right, now you're giving me Big Evans vibes. At their peak, or at least unless it's apocryphal, historic documents claim that thousands participated. Some people died of dancing plague. They would suddenly scream, cry, collapse. And then they would have groups of people who would try to cure them. In Italy, it was thought that playing a certain kind of music would cure it, and that evolved into the dance we call the tarantella, because they believe the curse came from tarantula poison, which it doesn't. Anyway, thoughts like, that's not hope or fear, or do you think that's a boredom one? Could you be so bored that you're like, I'm going to dance till I die, though?
Yes.
Why would you go till you die?
Yeah, Footloose was right. Footloose was right. You have to defend against dancing at all times. It's a poison. It's an infection of the human mind, and once you start, you can't stop. I mean, I think maybe that's why line dancing was invented, right? Like
or
now
mosh
we
pits,
have
like
a firm end point.
Oh,
where
you think
we all stop dancing rather than just like, well, I don't want to stop.
What if dancing was like an ancient form of powerful elemental magic, and we made rules around dancing to like tame it?
Yeah.
And what we modern people don't realize is dancing used to be like, that was it. Like you could cause, hails of stone. But they're like, we got to put limits on dancing. It's too powerful.
Every time this guy gets drunk, it starts hailing.
Right. Like the town was summoning a dragon or something. Yeah. I guess my point is, I don't know, maybe the ergot bread, maybe the syphilis, maybe it's a pagan ritual. But the idea that it's true that back in history times, there were towns of thousands of people dancing for 24 hours.
Yeah, party towns, man.
I just love it's weird. We do weird shit. Humans do weird stuff.
Weird shit.
Fascinating stuff. And if you want to see more about people dancing till they die, I'm going to end as I often like to, because it's my love language, with a pop culture recommendation for the audience. Robert, have you seen the movie They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
No.
No, by Sidney Pollack, based on the novel by Horace McCoy. If you like, I do because I'm weird. If you like The Stranger or Kafka's bleaker stuff, if you like really hardcore existentialist dread, They Shoot Horses, Don't They is considered by many to be the most accomplished existentialist novel in American literature. I highly recommend the book and the movie, Sidney Pollack movie. The book was written at the height of the Depression, and the setup is there's a dance contest where it's televised. Whatever couple stays dancing longest wins $1,000 or some shit. Anyone can sign up, but it's the height of the Depression, so everyone's starving. So the producers underestimate the degree to which people will keep dancing to do this. And the producers, as it goes longer and longer, realize they have an unlikely hit on their hands because all of America starts tuning into the show where this couple has danced for 6 days without eating or whatever. And it gets to the point where it's now a dystopic nightmare where you're watching TV because you know these people are killing themselves. And they're dancing to the point where they're dying and passing out and shit. And it becomes, almost supernaturally abstracted to like, when is this going to stop? Are we just watching everyone die now? And they're just like rolling bodies out. And it's good and dark and trippy, and I highly recommend it. But it's also the perfect way to bring us down right before we hit you with our last segment, something we call Cutting Through the Treacle.
Eat my shorts, Bart. Just cutting through the treacle.
This is where we take whatever big point I was blindly groping at in the muck and throw it out for some fun, honest-to-goodness Simpsons trivia, bring us back to base, set us up for success next time around. Robert, Cutting to the T has 2 modes. I used to call them hard and easy. I'm now just going to call them fast and slow, because I don't think they're necessarily, well, that's true. But I also do think it's truer to what it is. It's whatever is your style. So in quick mode, you have to answer 10 simple but increasingly tricky Simpsons trivia questions that I'm like, come on, no clues. No, you can do this. And I sort of work against you. Slow mode is a complicated, difficult, sometimes multi-part Simpsons logic question, but it's podcasting speed. Like, I'm your friend. I'll give you clues. You can chat about it, whatever.
Okay. Let me talk through my strategy in picking.
Yeah, please.
If I choose quick mode, and either way, if I choose either, my memory is kind of dog shit, even for things that I love. I don't. It's probably something I
You're
inhaled.
not a bar trivia champion,
no.
Generally type.
My memory's terrible. I have an individual hysteria where sometimes I'll insert Shaq into like a story or a memory that I hold dear, that I've heard a story about. That's how bad my memory is. Sometimes Shaquille
He has
O'Neal.
a genie movie that was a Mandela's effect, doesn't he?
Yeah, that was Shazam.
And everyone thought it didn't exist or did exist? You know what? I don't want to know the reality about Shazam.
No,
Don't
it
tell
was
me.
he was in Kazam, which is the genie movie.
But people thought
the
he
Mandela
was in-
effect was they thought Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam.
Shazam. Right.
Which that's just basic racism.
But no, yeah, he was an American
You
Dad.
confuse one black guy with another about a genie movie and then didn't remember the title. It's not a big deal. Anyway, my theory is
Angelou.
this. Because of my dog shit memory, I'm gonna look like an asshole either way. If I choose the easy one and look like an asshole, there's no winning. So I have to choose the harder, slower one. That way, if I end up getting it wrong and look like an asshole, at least I go down swinging. Like, at least there's some respect.
Hey, all right, that's 3 out of 4 guests in June. Note it, audience. Wanted it slow and hard.
Yeah, that's me.
Old Swaimster. Here you go. And I this is a risky one on my part because it actually, like the last question was a logic question that literally you had to kill time to answer. You had to think it through. If you know this, you know it. So you could knock it. Like, here's your chance to look like the opposite of an asshole. You could look like a prolapse asshole.
I was hoping it would be longer so that I would get like less chance to look like an asshole. But all right.
What name is shared by very main characters on The Simpsons, The Critic, and Futurama? Please answer in the form of mass hysteria.
In the form of...
No.
You want me to do an impression of 800 people?
Not just fill in time. Maybe I'll dance.
Very main
I should
characters.
dance for a long time.
On Futurama.
Core characters, as in, yeah,
I'm
like
thinking
the family or the crew.
Yeah.
We're not even going to Springfield Retirement Castle for this.
Is it... see, my gut says to think this is a Swaim trick. This is a classic Swaim trick, like when you fucked me with Listomania.
No, this is a real answer. This is not a joke answer.
So it's not...
This
it's
is
not
a real...
Professor. Like,
There are people yelling the right answer at their phones angrily. It's one of those. There's people who got it right away. I'm gonna speed us up. Can I give you a clue?
Sure. I'm not great with the Critic. I did watch some of it, but
The Critic, sure. What name is shared by main characters on The Simpsons, The Critic, Futurama, and Rocky and Bullwinkle?
It doesn't help me at all. It was Boris and Natasha are the only ones I can think of from...
Calling it. I have determined you will not get it based on the last thing you said. Because that was the giveaway.
Stop! He's already dead.
Bullwinkle creator Jay Ward was a favorite of Matt Groening's, which is why he has always included the name Jay in all of the shows he touched. And even Al Jean and Mike Reese, who split off and did The Critic, named Jay Sherman Jay for that reason. To carry on that tradition, Philip's middle name, Jay Fry, has never explicitly been stated as Jay, but it's assumed to be Jay because Homer's name is also Jay.
I'll finally know what J stands for. From this moment forth, I will be known as Homer J. Simpson.
It was Jay.
Yeah, you fucked me. His middle
Was
initials?
that a trick?
Middle initials? Yeah,
no,
you
but
fucked
J
me.
stands for J. J-A-Y. The name
Okay.
Jay.
Yeah.
You must have seen that one
I
with Carlin
discarded
and Martin
any
Mull.
possibility
Okay.
of middle or last names. I was so certain.
That was the only tricky level, was that it was middle names. Yeah.
Yeah, I see how it is.
Do you
I see
want
how
to do
this
the
podcast
fast
is.
version?
No.
And see
No.
if...
No, we'll let it stand.
Because
We'll let
okay.
injustice stand.
I'd be willing to do both to see how you do.
No,
but
my
okay,
memory-
he doesn't
my
want the
memory's dog
redemption
shit. I was
shot.
losing either way. I was just hoping it would
Great.
be
Obscured,
obfuscated a little more than it wound up being.
I'm going to drop all of my farceurical qualities. Sorry, I'm name-checking words that we've been learning throughout the month. To say, Robert Brockway, thank you so much for being on. I was always going to have you on in the fullness of time. Robert Evans, as we both know from experience. Great guy, great friend, great talent, hard to pin down or get a hold of. And sometimes he says he'll do something and then he doesn't come to it. So really appreciate you. This was super fun. And thanks for having me on your site, 1-900-HOT-DOG, where I also write. So thanks, boss. And is there anything else you'd like to plug, or do you want to let people know where they can find you on socials these days? I think you're on you're in the dying liberal bubble one, right?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky somewhere. I don't know what the address is. It's a long thing. Look up my name, I guess.
Are you over social? Are you don't care about it
I'm
anymore?
supposed to, again, because I'm legally supposed to promote my book at some point. I have to really get back into it. But like having pretty much ditched it completely for the last several years, it's so hard to get back to because I really don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about any of it. I don't like every time I open it to like type a thing, like I'm overwhelmed with like, well, who gives a shit?
Right.
Who could possibly care about what I'm about to type about this? Because I don't.
Of course.
So follow me on that.
Who does? Right.
Follow me on the thing I don't respect. Because I'll have updates about the book someday when the lawyers get to me.
Exactly. But do remember, of course, Robert was a big part of Cracked Golden Era. So support him, and pre-orders are just so important. So to pre-order Robert's book, listen to a bunch of media in the future until he one day offhandedly mentions the title of it, I guess.
Yeah, that's
which he
the
won't
plan.
be doing here. Yeah. All right. So long.
All right.
Now let's go whip donuts at old people.
Homer says, increase your wordiness. Today's word is inchoate, which means brand new and thus not fully formed, or zygotic, i.e. still in development. Yep, that's us. Not afraid of change and still trying to nail the formula, so please feel free to let us know what aspects of the show are clicking for you and what might not be down in the comments.
Oh, I've wasted my life.
Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss our July episode, which will drop in 2 weeks.
It might be feasible in a fortnight.
What?
I can play in 2 weeks.
July's exploration is going to be less focused on a single episode, but more focused on The Simpsons itself, specifically the fascinating world of groundskeeper Willie.
I'm not even going to tell you what that guy's into.
My guest will be no one. I will be monologuing directly at you for over an hour instead, because we want to see if that format works better. So it's going to be all jokes and facts, no filler. So if you thought this month was cute and cash, but you prefer the shorted, tighter, scripted versions, don't give up. Come through in support of that vision of STME in July and share the episode, please, if you end up digging it. You can also get this show as an audio-only pod by subbing the Cracked podcast feed wherever you get podcasts. And if you're a Swaimplationist, you can find many more of my pods by searching for the words small beans.
That worked so well.